Hi everyone, let's talk about my top 10 most anticipated games for Gen Con 2017, Gen Con 50. Take these with a pinch of salt because obviously they're personal to me, it's my opinion, I have my own personal preferences and other P things, and I'm not going, so I'm not getting any of these anyway, so it's just a wish list more than anything. Before we start with the 10, there's some honourable mentions to things that just didn't make it, or maybe I've already got them. There are things like Whistle Stop. I don't think the rules are available for it. Maybe it would be higher if there were rules and things. Valletta and Unearth are games that are great, and I have got videos coming up for them. And if I didn't have them, they might be on there. Custom Heroes, I've mentioned before, that's using the card crafting of Mystic Vale in a trick-taking game. Might be great. And Apocrypha adventure card game, I know is from, based on the system of Pathfinder adventure card game. I would want more from, it was a bit, we didn't really get through Pathfinder adventure card game, so I'd want a little bit more to it, but I'm very interested to see what that does with it. Oh, and also Valeria Card Kingdoms, the expansion for that is going to be available at Gen Con. I really, really like that game, it just didn't quite make the top. But let's get onto the list then, and I've got it here. That's if you see me kind of looking to the side, the list's there. Anyway, number 10 is Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time from Brett Gilbert and Matthew Dunstan, who are the designers of Elysium, a game from a couple of years ago, which is a fantastic card game. And this is a co-op game where we are traveling around this castle trying to steal things from Professor Evil, and he is going to kind of randomly move around his castle, flipping switches and blocking our progress, basically. It seems like a pretty fun theme. It looks really nice. I wonder if there'll be enough there in the gameplay, if it might be a bit too simple. I don't really know, though, but I'm definitely looking forward to it based on the look of the game and the design duo behind it as well. That's Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. Number 9 is Ex Libris, which is from Renegade Games. There's a few from Renegade Games on here because they tend to just put out brilliant things. This is a game, and basically there are no rules for this either. This will probably be a lot higher if there are rules for it. I only have to go off what Chris Bryan said in his top 10, so it's kind of recycling top 10s to top 10s. I'll put a link to his so you can see his paraphrasing of it, but it's a game where we're trying to build up these libraries, and we have these cards of books that we're trying to get in order. We get bonus points if they're in alphabetical order, and it's a worker placement game. The workers will be rooms with these particular powers, and they will change from round to round, and we're basically trying to build up the best bookshelves. That in itself sounds great. The art is brilliant. It's a Renegade game, as I mentioned. They've made so many that I've really, really loved. Clank, Flatline, Fuse. They take others that I've seen from other publishers as well, like Honshu. They've taken on. They're taking on Planet Defenders as well. Brilliant, brilliant things coming from them. So really looking forward to Ex Libris. Number 8, also from Renegade Games, is Flipships. And this has got all of those things that I said before. Great art. It's from Renegade, who put great things out. But this is also from Kane Klenko, who is the designer of Flatline and Fuse and many, many others. And this is a dexterity game where we're trying to flip. Guess what we're flipping? We're flipping ships on the table, and it's a brilliant looking game based purely off the designer and the company it's coming from. Really, really excited about Flipships as well. Number 7 is Deadline from WizKids, and this is a card game, a cooperative card game, where we are going to be using hand management to try and solve original mysteries, and that's the real key to it. I don't know much about the gameplay itself, but I really am keen on any games that try to include more narrative things, and a lot of them don't really succeed at it, but I really, really want to see more of it, and that is really the key to Deadline, and it's got, this detective noir theme, really like that as well, so I've got high hopes for Deadline. Number 6 is Sentient from, you've guessed it, Renegade Games. 3 on this list. I'm not sure about their availability in America really, but they're anticipated by me. They're not here yet. But anyway, Sentient is a game from Alex Kevern, who is the designer of Gold West, a fantastic game. And this is a game where we have these player boards with dice on them that are set to certain numbers, and we will be taking cards that will adjust the numbers when we put them down, but give us points based on what the numbers are. So this number needs to be higher than this number, or this number needs to be a particular one. So we put the card down and adjust the dice up or down, but placing other cards is going to mess with those dice. So it's based around a really nice puzzle of you have to change the dice around, but you want to try and take certain ones so that they will end up with the numbers that you need. Really excited about Sentient. Number 5 is Nations the Dice game Unrest, an expansion. Nations itself, the big box, is one of my favourite games. It's absolutely my favourite civilization builder that we've played, and the dice game I really love in its own right as well. This is basically... it would be on here just if it was adding more and nothing else, just more tiles to change things up a bit. But it also adds Unrest, that apparently is going to make dice rolling a bit more difficult, and also special rerolls and bonus tiles, which will give us things to aim for each round as well. So not only will it add more variability to the game, it will add a lot of new concepts as well. And number 4, I did feel a little bit silly that I was going to say this, but then I thought, I don't really care, it's my list and the heart wants what it wants. It is Bob Ross, Art of Chill, which I don't really like the title of it, but it seems like a very light game where we will have paintings on easels and it will have different combinations of colours and tools, either the knives or the brushes and things, and we are trying to collect certain sets to meet the criteria on there, all the while trying to beat Bob Ross, who is painting along with us. It seems like, I wonder if it might be a bit too light of a game, but I went through more of this in my actual anticipated geek list on Board Game Geek, talking about this a little bit. I had no idea who Bob Ross was until a few years ago, but he's a much bigger thing in America, I think, and he did a fantastic program teaching people how to paint, and it's amazing how engrossing that program is. I would definitely suggest watching it if you hadn't, but based on basically mine and Rachel's love for that program and Bob himself, really want this game. Just want Bob Ross on my shelf. I know that it's going to be available at the Gen Con for the first time, and then it's going to come out in October, I think, and be a Target exclusive, so who knows what that means for people in the UK. But, you know, if you are a very kind and generous person who's going to Gen Con and you feel like making Bob Ross's game available to me, then I am definitely all ears and would love some help with that. But that is Bob Ross Art of Chill. Number 3 is Spirit Island, which, you know, might not be on here if because it's going to come out in about a week or so, or a few days in England. So yeah, but it looks fantastic, and I cannot wait for this. I will probably have a verdict before Gen Con, but it seems like a kind of a heavier co-op game where we are playing as these spirits of the island, Spirit Island, and there are, you know, colonial people that are trying to settle on this island, but they are blighting it, and as the spirits, we want to rid the island of them, and we are trying to scare them off, basically. And it sounds like a really unique thing. The spirits that you play as are all incredibly different in the ways that they level up, their power cards, and their general special abilities. They all have very different play styles. You know, they have different levels of difficulty and complexity, and have various things on the back, some flavor text, how to play them. And as well as all of that, you can add this. There are so many difficulty levels that you can add on top of it, and you can have the invaders, rather than just being generic things, you can make them England and different countries, and give them specific attributes. It sounds like there is a ton going on in there. I saw John Gets Games' vlog for last month where he talked about playing it. It sounded amazing there. The What Did You Play This Week podcast, Jamie did a half-an-hour special just about Spirit Island. Really pumped off those things, and it's basically, according to the tweets, it's sold out in America anyway, and they're going to have a few copies at Gen Con, so if you're there and that sounds interesting, hunt it down. Number 2 is Dragonfire, and this is, if you know Shadowrun Crossfire, this is basically the Dungeons & Dragons reimagining of Shadowrun Crossfire. I'm sure it's going to have a ton of its own little quirks as well, but it's based off of that system where, you know, there will be certain enemies that need certain symbols to defeat, and some will just be colourless, but some will be specific, and we'll need to work together to try and use our cards the best we can, because if it's anything like Shadowrun Crossfire, it's going to be a very difficult game as well, but very satisfying if you can beat it. It's also going to have the thing that is fantastic in Shadowrun, where our characters will earn experience. Basically, they earn karma in Shadowrun, and they level up. They get these stickers that will give them special powers or increase their hand size or all sorts of different things. It's a very unique deck builder, and also for the fact that it's got basically campaign, not really legacy, but it's got campaign play where your characters will just keep evolving over the course of the game. You know, you will always go back to them and get a bit more for your character. That is such a fantastic concept, and you know, I'm all for it taking place in Dungeons and Dragons land as well. And they've talked about, you know, they've got loads and loads of expansions in the work. That's the only. This is not really a problem with Shadowrun Crossfire because I'm fine with modes from the base game and let alone the expansion. But it's good that this looks like it's getting even more support than Shadowrun's got, and Shadowrun is still going to be ongoing as well, I hear. But yeah, really excited about Dragonfire. And finally, number 1 is Lisboa from Vital Lacerda. Love all of his games that I've tried, I believe. You know, CO2, Kanban, The Gallerist, Vinos, and the list just goes on of fantastic games that are, you know, they have these amazingly complex, intricate simulations, but he manages to find a way of linking everything together so beautifully that the games just sing and are so smooth. Once you have got over the little hurdle of seeing, oh, what is this? If you're looking at Kanban or something, if you're looking at the busy board and hearing about all of these things and thinking, what am I getting into here? But as soon as you're in that game, everything is so smooth and the decisions are agonizing sometimes, but everything is kind of feeding off everything else. Every action, especially in a game like The Gallerist, where you will take an action and this affects this action and this affects the markets here, and doing one thing kind of has a chain reaction that sets off beautiful combos. Anyway, that's all of his other games. Lisboa is another one in the he's with Eagle Gryphon Games at the moment, and Ian O'Toole does the art for it, and they are just beautiful games. So far it's been The Gallerist and the Vinos Deluxe Edition that they've done. I know CO2 second edition is coming up that they are working on together, but not from Eagle Gryphon. But yeah, Lisboa is the new original Lacerda game. I know that there has recently been some really bad misfortune of European copies have been in an accident, have been in a fire, and so there's going to be a delay on that for the Kickstarter backers. I couldn't afford the Kickstarter at the time, you know, cry me a river. But yeah, really cannot wait for this. Just anything from Vital Lacerda. Never mind the fact that it looks like a fantastic game in its own right as well. I saw the prototype at Essen when I was there. I was stood with a crowd listening to Vital explain the game, and it just looks beautiful. And that was just with prototype. Seeing things now of, you know, the raised player boards and the actual the board that's not, you know, printed on prototype components, it just all looks beautiful, and I can't wait for it. It's generally a very big purchase. They tend to be very expensive things, the Eagle Gryphon Lacerda games, but they do justify it with a ton of content and absolutely beautiful, lavish components. But basically, it could have been any Vital Lacerda game. It's right up there because I cannot wait to play it. But yeah, that is it for my top 10. So did I miss things off? Did I make glaring mistakes? I'm sure I did. I'm sure I didn't say all of the things at the beginning. Did I mention Codenames Duet? I'm excited about that too, but it just wasn't in the top 10. And there's demos, you know, Dice Hospital, I talked about at the UK Games Expo. You can go see that there. Palace of Mad King Ludwig, Detective City of Angels, Thunderstone Quest. There are many things that you can go and look at demos of as well. Even more than that, I didn't write all of those down. But yeah, there is a lot to look at. Very jealous of all of you people that are going to be at Gen Con, but I'm sure we will be back here talking about Essen games that I'm going to, and there are a lot of people that won't go to that either. So, you know, can't complain. Loads of brilliant games. Cannot wait for all of them. Good times. Bye.